Electric Avenue. And then we'll take it higher. Oh, we're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue. And then we'll take it higher.
Welcome to St. Martin Furniture.
Vos élus municipaux sont au cœur du développement de votre communauté. Le 6 novembre, faites connaître votre choix. Parce que la vie municipale, c'est aussi vous qui la faites. Un message du gouvernement du Québec.
Eh bien, bonjour à tous. Vous vous souvenez, il y a quelques semaines, on a annoncé un concours qui donnait la chance aux jeunes de poser leurs questions à Marie-Pierre. Mais la participation ayant été faible, on a décidé d'annuler le concours. Les raisons qui nous ont été données, c'est que les jeunes étaient un peu timides de passer devant la caméra et aussi qu'ils ne connaissaient pas Marie-Pierre. Fait qu'on on a une chance présentement de la connaître. Donc, bonjour Marie-Pierre.
Bonjour.
Marie-Pierre, c'est qui, en quelques mots, ses passe-temps, qu'est-ce qui te passionne en tant que tel?
Ça fait quand même 7 ans que je chante. Et puis, là, présentement, justement, je suis en tournée en Abitibi. C'est ma dernière soirée ce soir. Donc, je termine à Témiscamingue. Puis, donc, c'est ça. J'ai 16 ans. Je suis une fille très, très sociable, qui aime beaucoup parler avec les gens. Puis justement, je pense dans mon spectacle, je compte beaucoup des histoires de ce que j'ai vécu et tout ça. Puis je pense que je fais aussi un paquet de chansons pour que les gens de tous les âges puissent se retrouver là-dedans. Donc, c'est pas mal ça.
OK, puis justement, tu as 16 ans, comme tu viens de dire, tu as déjà 2 albums.
Oui.
Tu dois toujours avoir chanté. Il remonte à quand ton premier souvenir où est-ce que tu chantais?
Pas de mémoire, mais j'ai vu des cassettes quand j'avais 3 ans, où là, je suis avec mon frère joue du piano, fait semblant de jouer du piano. Moi, je suis en avant, puis je chante mes petites chansons. Mais donc ça, c'est vraiment mon plus vieux souvenir, c'est ça, j'avais 3 ans. Sinon, mon souvenir qui me vient à la mémoire, c'est sûr que c'est la première fois que j'ai fait une télévision, que j'ai chanté à la télé. C'était au Point J, qui était animé par Julie Snyder à TVA. Puis, donc, c'est ça. Donc, ça, c'est vraiment mon souvenir le plus récent. C'est là que j'ai vraiment eu la piqûre pour le chant.
Et puis c'est quoi, justement, ça doit être cet événement-là en tant que tel, mais qu'est-ce qui a été l'élément déclencheur de ta carrière? T'es jeune pour qu'on parle d'une carrière, mais c'est ça quand même. Hein?
Oui, en fait, l'élément déclencheur, c'est que quand ça a vraiment parti un peu, c'est principalement quand j'ai fait le spectacle Québec-New York, qui était un événement pour ramasser des fonds pour les victimes du 11 septembre, qui se faisait au Centre Bell. Puis, donc, c'est ça. Donc, j'ai chanté là-bas. Il y avait quand même, 12 000 personnes qui m'ont vue. Donc, c'était quand même impressionnant et tout ça. Puis, c'est après ça, à la suite de ça, il y a beaucoup de personnes influentes de la musique qui étaient là, donc qui m'ont vue, puis tout ça. Donc, il y en a certains qui ensuite m'ont offert des chansons. D'autres, il y avait des producteurs, donc, d'émissions et tout ça. Donc, j'ai été sur des plateaux, j'ai fait des émissions ensuite de ça. Donc, c'est vraiment ça qui m'a donné un bon coup de pouce.
OK. Puis, comment t'es-tu retrouvée enregistrée à 12 ans ton premier album? Qu'est-ce qui a fait?
Quand j'ai fait ma première télévision au Point J à TVA, il y avait une dame sur le plateau de tournage qui a voulu s'occuper de moi. Bon, ça a pris quand même 4 mois avant qu'on signe avec elle parce que moi, dans ma famille, il n'y a personne qui fait ce métier. Exactement. Donc, c'est ça. Donc, c'est 4 mois après qu'on a signé avec cette dame-là. Je suis restée avec elle 2 ans. En fait, je veux dire, elle s'occupait de moi, je me suis formée, j'ai travaillé énormément sur ma voix, sur la diction, j'ai fait du théâtre aussi. Puis, c'est par la suite, j'ai enregistré mon premier album grâce à elle. Puis j'étais avec l'équipe de production de Bruno Pelletier qui s'appelle Les Disques Artistes. Donc, eux faisaient la production de mes disques. Donc, c'est là que ça a décollé en quelque sorte. Puis maintenant, je suis avec les Disques Artistes au niveau de la gérance et de la production d'albums aussi.
Tu viens de parler de Bruno Pelletier. Je pense que ta première tournée, c'était justement avec lui.
J'ai eu la chance, avant de faire la première partie de Bruno, de faire une genre de mini-tournée où je me promenais un peu au Québec. Je suis pas venue, par exemple, en Abitibi, mais j'ai fait, exemple, des villes comme Granby, Sherbrooke, Saint-Jérôme, l'Assomption, des places comme ça, qui sont un peu plus dans mon coin. Donc, c'est ça. Puis ensuite, par la suite, j'ai eu la chance de faire la première partie de Bruno Pelletier, où là, j'ai fait la Côte-Nord, par contre.
Puis tu avais quel âge à peu près à ce moment-là?
C'est il y a 2 ans, donc j'avais 14 ans.
Puis comment est-ce que tes parents t'accompagnaient, premièrement, à cet âge-là?
En fait, ma mère m'accompagne partout. Mon père, lui, est un peu plus gêné. Il aime moins ça, le côté artistique. Lui, il assiste plus au spectacle. Il aime le produit final. Ma mère, elle est avec moi tout le temps, en arrière de la scène. C'est la personne la mieux placée pour savoir mes besoins, c'est certain. J'ai toujours habituellement, mon agente aussi est toujours avec moi, Caroline Cloutier. Puis, donc, c'est ça. Mais, oui, c'est sûr, j'ai 16 ans. Là, j'ai besoin d'avoir quelqu'un. Je peux pas être lancée toute seule là-dedans, c'est évident. Donc, ma mère est toujours là.
Puis à 14 ans, une tournée comme ça, un peu partout au Québec, ça se vit comment, puis ça se gère comment?
Ça se vit bien parce que, en ce qui concerne l'école, surtout, mes professeurs étaient au courant, donc j'ai manqué environ une semaine. Donc, les professeurs étaient au courant. Donc, au niveau de l'école, ça a bien été. C'est sûr que je me suis ennuyée un peu de chez moi, mais on vit tellement des belles expériences, on est tellement bien entourés aussi que quand on fait le spectacle, c'est tellement le fun. La réaction des gens aussi, de rencontrer les gens, c'est super intéressant. Donc, disons que ça se gère très bien.
Puis après, tu as fait une autre tournée en solo qui était dans le cadre de l'événement La chanson manchante.
C'est ça, c'est ce que j'expliquais tantôt, c'est que la chanson manchante, ça a été avant la tournée de Bruno Pelletier.
Ça a été avant.
C'est ça, exactement. Donc ça, c'est une initiative des diffuseurs de grandes salles de spectacle au Québec qui donnait la chance à la relève de pouvoir se présenter, en fait, dans leur salle, de pouvoir chanter dans leur salle de spectacle. Puis, donc moi, j'ai eu la chance de participer à ça. Il y avait aussi, mon Dieu, il y avait Amélie Veil qui a fait ça, Richard Séguin, mais c'est pas nécessairement juste la relève. C'était aussi des personnes beaucoup plus établies, comme je disais, Richard Séguin.
OK. Maintenant, tu as sorti ton deuxième album. Qu'est-ce qu'on retrouve sur ce deuxième album?
On retrouve... En fait, le premier album était... c'est des compositions qu'on a écrites soit pour moi ou qu'on m'a offertes. Donc, il y a peut-être 2 reprises sur l'album seulement, mais c'est surtout des chansons qu'on a écrites pour moi ou qu'on m'a offertes. Puis sur le deuxième, c'est seulement des reprises avec une seule originale. Donc, je fais des reprises du répertoire québécois et français de différentes époques.
Puis qu'est-ce qui a amené le choix de ces chansons-là en particulier?
Moi, je suis une personne qui écoute énormément de musique de tous les âges, de toutes les époques, et puis de tous les styles. Puis... on faisait quelques reprises dans le premier spectacle quand j'ai fait la tournée de Ça me chante. Puis, donc, c'est ça, on faisait des reprises. On faisait, exemple, une chanson qui s'appelle Mamie Blue. Puis, il y avait une très, très, très belle réponse au niveau du public. Donc, on s'est dit, pourquoi pas un deuxième album, peut-être faire un album de reprise. Donc, ensuite, on a essayé, on a fait une chanson qui s'appelle Si Maman Si, qui a joué beaucoup à la radio. Donc, il y avait une belle réaction au niveau du public à ce niveau-là aussi. Donc, c'est vraiment là que tout s'est enclenché. On a fait une recherche de chansons. Moi, j'en ai amené quelques-unes. Mon équipe en a amené quelques-unes. Donc, on a tout fait le tri là-dedans, puis on a choisi des chansons qui me collaient bien à la peau, puis que j'aimais beaucoup.
Maintenant, tu termines ta tournée justement en Abitibi-Témiscamingue, comme tu en as parlé. Ça va comment? Ça doit être ta première tournée qui est pour toi et avec ton nom en grande affiche, là. Oui,
c'est la première fois, en fait, que je pars à l'extérieur et que je fais des spectacles, comment on peut dire ça, d'affilée, là, tous les soirs. Donc, j'ai fait 5 soirs d'affilée. C'est super intéressant. Mes musiciens sont vraiment incroyables. Je m'entends super bien avec eux. Donc, c'est sûr que le fait qu'on ait une belle chimie entre nous autres, ça l'aide énormément. Donc, ça, c'est super le fun de rencontrer aussi les gens, puis de rencontrer un coin de pays que j'ai jamais visité. Ça, c'est super intéressant. Puis, les gens sont vraiment chaleureux. J'ai un bel accueil. Je peux pas me plaindre. C'est vraiment le fun.
Puis, y a-t-il une grosse différence avec les autres tournées que tu avais faites, qui étaient ou bien avec Bruno Pelletier ou bien Ça m'enchante?
Non, je dirais que c'est quand même semblable, sauf que peut-être la seule différence, c'est que le spectacle est différent, puis que c'est sûr qu'il y a des... Là, c'est la première fois, en fait, les 5 spectacles, on les a pas faits avant, donc on l'a pas... si vous me permettez l'expression, on n'a pas rodé le spectacle. On ne l'avait pas essayé jusqu'à maintenant. On a fait des répétitions, par contre. Donc, c'est la seule différence, je dirais. C'est un tout nouveau spectacle. Donc, mais c'est vraiment le fun. La réaction des gens est très, très, très belle. Puis, les gens sont chaleureux, accueillants. Donc, ça va très bien.
Y a-t-il déjà d'ailleurs d'autres tournées qui sont prévues ou qui sont en train de se bâtir présentement?
En fait, moi, par la suite, quand je vais retourner chez moi, on devrait faire quelques salles de spectacle dans mon coin. Donc, pour ce qui est de tourner, partir à l'extérieur, non. Mais dans mon coin, ça, c'est sûr qu'il va y avoir des dates de spectacle qui vont être inscrites à l'agenda.
Et est-ce que tu es toujours à l'école ou...
Oui, j'ai jamais lâché l'école. Je vais toujours à l'école publique. J'ai pas de professeur privé non plus. Moi, je trouvais que c'était important de rester dans le milieu avec mes amis et tout ça, voir les gens et tout ça, parce que je voulais pas être considérée comme une personne à part, là. Moi, je suis normale, là, je vais à l'école comme les autres. Donc, c'est ça. Puis je pense que ça m'aide énormément à garder les deux pieds sur terre aussi.
Est-ce qu'on commence déjà à te reconnaître dans la rue? Sûrement un peu. Ça doit faire chaud au cœur aussi.
Bien, c'est sûr que des fois, surtout dans mon coin, moi, j'habite dans une banlieue de Montréal, donc dans ce coin-là où j'habite, c'est sûr que les gens vont me reconnaître, vont me dire ben bonjour Jean-Pierre, tout ça. Mais les gens sont toujours tellement gentils que ça fait plaisir. Puis c'est sûr que, comme tu dis, ça fait vraiment chaud au cœur parce que habituellement, c'est toujours des beaux commentaires. Puis les gens, s'ils viennent te voir, habituellement, c'est parce qu'ils veulent te dire justement qu'ils t'apprécient. Donc c'est sûr que c'est super gentil. Je l'apprécie énormément.
Est-ce que Marie-Pierre Perreault est déjà une vedette un peu? Est déjà une célébrité? Ou...
Non, je suis pas prête à dire ça. Je veux dire, ben, je pense que je veux pas justement avoir le statut de vedette, là. Je pense que je suis, quand on me voit au quotidien, je suis une personne normale. C'est sûr que sur la scène, c'est sûr que ça prend une dimension différente, mais j'essaie d'être le plus possible moi-même. Quand on me voit sur la scène, c'est la même Marie-Pierre qu'on voit quand on parle. Tu sais, comme je te parle là, c'est la même chose. Donc, j'essaie le plus possible d'être justement les deux pieds sur terre. Je suis pas prête à dire que je suis une vedette.
Le terme te fait peur? Ou...
Oui, ben un petit peu, là. Tu sais, je pense qu'une vedette, c'est quelqu'un qui, comme on dit, qu'on voit partout. Un peu comme ces grandes vedettes américaines qu'on voit. Je pense que chaque personne, oui, on peut dire vedette, mais je suis pas... Le terme, moi, me fait un peu peur, disons.
OK. Tu es ambassadrice de Lis avec moi.
Oui.
Est-ce que tu peux me parler un petit peu de Lis avec moi?
OK. Lire avec moi, c'est un événement, en fait, pour inciter les jeunes à lire, pour inciter les gens à lire. Donc, j'ai pris une journée, on a fait un après-midi de temps, je me suis assise avec quelqu'un, avec un enfant, puis je lui ai lu une histoire. Puis, donc, c'est vraiment de s'engager pour dire... nous, à travers tous ceux parce qu'il y en a quand même beaucoup de personnes, il y a Chantal Petitclerc, il y a Jean-Luc Brassard et tout ça. Donc, nous, ce qu'on fait, c'est quand on fait justement les entrevues comme ça, on incite les gens à lire parce que moi, je suis une personne qui adore lire. Je suis un rat de bibliothèque. Puis, je pense que c'est une chose importante. C'est la culture, c'est une manière de voyager, une manière de découvrir un paquet de trucs. Donc c'est vraiment ça. Lire avec moi, c'est de pouvoir inciter les jeunes, quand on a la chance de le faire, de leur tendre un livre, de leur donner des suggestions de lecture ou de seulement leur lire un petit bout d'histoire.
OK. Quand on pense à une autre chanteuse qui a commencé très jeune, il y a Céline Dion qui nous vient automatiquement en tête. Est-ce que c'est une carrière semblable à laquelle tu rêves ou pas nécessairement?
C'est sûr que Céline Dion, elle a une très, très, très belle carrière, mais je pense que j'ai à faire mon chemin. Puis si ça augure comme ça, tant mieux. Mais si c'est pas comme ça, c'est pas grave. Bon, tu sais, Isabelle Boulay, elle a pas commencé aussi jeune, mais quand même, elle a un autre parcours de carrière. Donc, on a chacune notre parcours de carrière. Puis si ça vient aussi si gros que ça, bon, ben, tant mieux. Je refuserai pas, c'est certain. Mais je pense que je fais mon petit chemin. Pour l'instant, c'est au Québec. Je suis très, très, très heureuse. Puis c'est sûr que si un jour je peux chanter justement internationalement, c'est sûr que, comme je te dis, je dirais pas non.
OK, bien, merci beaucoup. J'étais très heureux de te parler un peu. On a appris, j'espère, à te connaître un petit peu plus.
Oui.
Merci beaucoup. Bon spectacle. Vous entendez peut-être un peu les tests de son en arrière. Là. C'est pas parce que le son est mauvais, c'est parce qu'on est juste à côté.
Oui.
Bien, merci beaucoup.
Ça fait plaisir. Merci énormément.
Et quittez pas le Canal 13, vous savez jamais ce qu'il peut vous réserver encore. Au revoir.
Bye bye.
C'est le temps pour notre bingo spécial en cours cette année. Le 29 novembre, le 6 décembre et le 13 décembre, c'est 1500 $ par bingo. Fait que achetez votre carte puis venez jouer avec nous autres, on va avoir du plaisir. All right. N'oublie pas les dates, le 29 novembre, le 6 décembre et le 13 décembre. voir au bingo! Bonjour, bonsoir, bienvenue au canal communautaire. Je suis très heureux de vous voir aujourd'hui. Je vais vous parler un petit peu du canal. Je ne serai pas long, là. Je ne changerai pas de poste tout de suite. Là. Je ne serai pas long. C'est qu'on réorganise le canal communautaire. Vous savez, notre émission de Sans cérémonie, Slice Home, ben ça fait 16 ans qu'on fait cette émission-là. Là. C'est changé de nom à travers des années, mais c'était toujours le même type d'émission. Mais on veut réorganiser ça pour mettre ça plus intéressant pour vous autres. On veut aller sur les lieux, vous visiter pour savoir vos intérêts, pour savoir quel sorte de hobby vous avez, puis qu'est-ce que ça implique, puis qu'est-ce que ça a l'air, puis on va filmer le hobby que vous avez. On veut rejoindre le monde de Témiscamingue. On veut faire connaître le monde de Témiscamingue à travers du canal communautaire. Puis moi, je suis certain et sûr qu'en faisant ça de même, on va mettre le canal plus intéressant pour vous autres. C'est le canal communautaire, ça appartient à la communauté. Vous autres, vous êtes de la communauté. Puis nous autres, on est ici pour montrer que c'est que la communauté a de l'air. Mais il y a des organismes à but non lucratif là, qui aiment ça passer au canal pour annoncer leur événement qui s'en vient. Mais on veut faire ça encore. Mais on ne veut pas le faire ici, assis sur le couch. On veut aller vous voir où ce que c'est que vous allez faire l'activité. Puis on veut que vous nous parlez de l'activité qui s'en vient. Mais le où, pourquoi, quand, comment, c'est ça qu'on veut savoir. L'émission ne durera pas une demi-heure, là. Ça va durer 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 s'il faut. On n'a pas de limite, nous autres. On n'est pas CTV, on est CCTV. CTV m'a été limité, mais ici, on n'a pas limité. Fait que j'aimerais ça que vous m'appelez au canal, c'est 627-8118. Puis sur mon téléphone cellulaire, c'est 498-7355. Puis que vous me dites que vous avez un hobby, vous voulez passer à TV, parler d'un événement qui s'en vient, puis toutes sortes d'affaires de même. Là. Puis ensemble, avec nous autres, puis vous autres, on va faire un canal qui va être plus intéressant. Hi, and welcome to the community channel. I'm always glad to see you guys here. I'm not going to be long, so don't change channel right away. I'm just going to be here for a minute or two. I want to talk to you about the community channel, and I want to tell you that we are restructuring the community channel from what it was to what it's going to be by sometime this year. You know the show Slice of Home, Sans Cérémonie? Well, that's been on TV for 16 years now. I mean, no show plays for 16 years on TV. And we noticed the decline in interest in the shows. So we decided we're going to go out into the community more. If you got an interesting hobby, real interesting hobby, and you like your hobby, obviously if you have a hobby, you like it, and you want to be able to share it and show people what it looks like and that, well, you give me a call at 8118 at the community channel and 498-7355 on my cell phone. And you talk to me about it, and I'll get together with you and we'll have a look at it and we'll make a show out of that. And we'd love to do that. And it doesn't have to be a hobby, it can be just something that interests you. Gardening, HGTV, that's all they do is that kind of show. You're remodeling your house, let's do it. Let's get together and check out the colors and we'll put this on TV. And the people at the Témiscamingue, I know, are going to be interested in this type of show. Now, if you're a non-profit organization and you want to come on to talk about an upcoming event, sure, but not on the couch. We're going to do it with just you, myself, and the camera, and you're going to tell me who, what, why, where, and when your activity is. That's it, that's all. It's going to be much shorter than before. Might last 5 minutes, might last 8 minutes, and it can go longer than that. We're not limited to how long it can go. So, I'm waiting for your call to help restructure the community channel and make the community channel something that we can all be proud of. It's special bingo time again, folks. We've got 3 special bingos coming up. November 29th, December 6th, and December 13th. $1,500 per bingo. That's going to be one $1,000 prize and a second prize of $500 for all 3 bingos. So be part of it, get your card, and don't forget the date, November 29th, December 6th, and December 13th. We'll have fun.
Bonjour, bienvenue aux activités du centre pour la semaine du 26 octobre au 1er novembre. Alors, ce dimanche le 23, on a eu un spectacle de Marie-Pierre Perreault qui s'est très bien déroulé. On a quand même eu plusieurs spectateurs et puis la jeune artiste nous a offert un excellent spectacle. Alors, merci à ceux qui sont venus et puis ceux qui ont manqué, vous avez manqué un très bon spectacle. Et puis, juste pour faire l'annonce du prochain spectacle, c'est le mercredi 16 novembre. Ce sera Macaroni à compter de 18h30. Il reste encore des billets, alors pour information, 627-3230. De plus, il y a quelques changements au niveau de l'horaire à l'Arena, au niveau du patinage public. C'est maintenant seulement les samedis et les dimanches, durant la journée, qu'il va y avoir du patinage public, dû au fait que la Ligue des hommes adultes de hockey social, ils prennent le vendredi, donc il y a seulement 2 jours de patin libre. Et puis, ce jeudi, c'est la soirée amateur de la Maison des Jeunes. Donc, jeudi, le 27 octobre, à compter de 19h à la salle de Torrey, vous avez le spectacle de la Maison des Jeunes, le Talent Show. Donc, pour si vous voulez plus d'informations, vous pouvez contacter la Maison des Jeunes au 627-9911. De plus, prenez note que l'horaire de la piscine est assez variable dû au fait qu'on manque un peu de sauveteur national. Donc, c'est une raison hors de notre contrôle, là, des facteurs qu'on ne peut pas contrôler. Donc, juste avant de vous présenter, parfois, ça peut être annulé. Donc, lâchez un coup de fil au centre récréatif et puis on va pouvoir vous dire si l'horaire aura bel et bien lieu et si les cours et les activités se dérouleront comme prévu. De plus, nous prenons des inscriptions pour les cours d'aquaforme adultes de soir. Les classes vont avoir lieu, les cours vont avoir lieu les mardis et jeudis de 18h à 19h30. À 19h. Donc, les cours vont débuter le mardi 1er novembre et pour une session, c'est 45 $. Et puis, nous avons besoin de 10 personnes pour que le cours ait lieu. Donc, c'est les mardis, jeudis à 18h à compter du 1er novembre. Et puis, ça nous prend 10 personnes. Si vous voulez plus d'informations, vous appelez au centre au 627-3230. Et puis, finalement, un petit mot pour vous parler des Jeux du Québec qui auront lieu le 3, 4, 5 février 2006. Notre comité organisateur est tout formé. Toutefois, on aurait besoin de bénévoles. Alors, même si vous n'êtes pas des experts en sport, vous pouvez vous offrir votre temps en tant que bénévole parce qu'on a besoin pour la sécurité, la signalisation, la communication. On a plusieurs sous-comités. Alors, n'hésitez pas à donner votre nom. Encore une fois, le numéro du centre, 627-3230. Alors, c'est ce qui conclut pour cette semaine.
Hi, welcome to the center. We're going to give you a little bit of information about the upcoming activities. For public skating will be now on Saturdays and Sundays only because of the men's hockey that starts on Friday evenings. The youth center is having a talent show this Thursday, October 27th, upstairs in the Dottori Hall at 7 p.m. For more information, just communicate with the youth center at 627-9911. Now, don't forget to come out and for elections, for the municipality elections that will be held Sunday, November 6th, to help choose our new town councils. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, the swimming lessons that were given by Monique Lemieux will have to be canceled. For this session, all parents with kids registered for her class can come to the center as of November 1st to get a reimbursement of some of the money. For swimming, public swimming, there will be some times that will be canceled. So because of lack of lifeguarding staff. So if you have any questions of timing, please call the center in advance to know if public swimming has been canceled or not. We will be offering a Aquaform adult class that will be starting November 1st. For a 6-week class, we need a minimum of 10 participants, and the cost for that is $45. In February 2006, our town will be hosting the 23rd Central Regional Quebec Games. For this major event, we will need the help of many volunteers. If you are interested, please leave your name at the center, and a member of the various committees that are present will be happy to reach you. And that's it for this week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye now.
It's that special bingo time again, folks. We've got 3 special bingos coming up. November 29th, December 6th, and December 13th. $1,500 per bingo. That's going to be one $1,000 prize and a second prize of $500 for all 3 bingos. So be part of it, get your card, and don't forget the date, November 29th, December 6th, and December 13th. We'll have fun.
My name is Euclid Moore, and I started work for the ICO in 1964. And I was hired as a handyman, and from then I worked as a foreman. We used to build boom timber and repair boom timber, and we would sweep all around from Antoine's Point and right down to the Le Cave. That was my job. I had about probably between 10 and 20 men working for me when I was a foreman. And I also worked as an operator, boat operator, when coming on the end, when CIP closed down. Well, we didn't repair any more boom timber, and I worked as I was a boat operator, and I used to haul oil. We used to haul oil for the Muir. We would take about we used to haul oil from Dozwa, and it would take a carload of oil. Wouldn't last a week. About 3 cars in 2 weeks I used to haul for the Muir, and that was by truck. A carload of oil was about 8,500 gallons, and the Muir's tank was 8,000 gallons. So 1 carload of oil was just about 1 tankful for the Muir, one fill, and it would take about probably I guess around 8,000 gallons a trip for each trip they would make. That's approximate. And then I used to build the rowboats. We used to build probably 10 or 15 a year. And this is one here I built. It's probably back in the late 1960s, I guess. Or this This boat here is 20 feet long, and I believe this is one I built for the, like it's hard to recognize a boat that you built maybe 30 years ago. But why I say that I built it, because I always used to put the seat right next to the rib. For that reason was when you were towing booms, I would tie the rope on the seat, and that would give it strength. And that's why I say I built this boat. But my dad was here. My dad was here from 1959, and he was building rowboats, and we were both building rowboats. Like I worked with him often, and then he retired, I think it was about 1968 or 69. And then from then on, well, I built the boats up till, I guess it was 1975. 1975, and we used to build them for all the towing operation that was going on between here and Pembroke. And so we used to ship boats down there, so I also built boats for down there as well as here. This boat is probably 30 years old, and I don't think it would be any good to put in the water today because it's rotten. But it would be good if somebody wanted to build one to take pattern off it there. But other than that, it would probably sink if you put it in the water. It's after 30 years, that's a long time. Well, I was happy to see it, to see something I done 30 years ago. I haven't seen a boat like this for since I worked here. So I went to Tembec in 1975, and this is work I done way back in the 60s. So this boat was used for sweeping, and it would pull one end of the boom, and they had a tugboat holding the other end of the boom. They had it probably about 20 sticks, and then they would make like a U, and then they would go along the shore, and the tugboat would be out probably maybe 100 feet out from the shore, and they would make like a big U, and then they would travel along the shore, and then there would be probably 15 men throwing the wood off of the shore, and they had what they called the pointer. They had the pointer, and there was men, maybe 8 or 10 men in the pointer. And then they would throw the wood in the water, and some men would run the shore, walking along the shore with big hip rubbers in the water with hip rubbers. And they would throw the wood in the water, and then this boat would go along the shore where it was shallow. And then they would put all this wood in this big boom, like it was open, like it was like a big U. And then when they would get 20 sticks full, well, they would close the boom. And then they would tow that out, and they would pick that up with a tugboat. And that's the way they operated for sweeping. And the big rowboats, some of them was 26, 28, and 36 feet long. And that's the boats they used on the sweep. They also used them to transport the men back and forth to work. They would all sit in the rowboats. They'd tow that with the tugs. And they would sweep up all around Antwin's Point, and right down to from Temiskaming-le-Cave. From Temiskaming-le-Cave, it would probably take us about a month to sweep that. And we had a scow. We had about 15 or 20 men, somewhere around that. And then we would do that not every year, maybe every 4 or 5 years we'd sweep from Temiskaming-le-Cave. And that was mostly all pine, up around opemican and around Antwin's Point. Well, it was just mostly pulp. Well, we never swept from opemican down. We swept just up around the cottages. That's where it wasn't a very big sweep there. They had a crew sweeping up around Notre Dame Genor. They had a bigger crew up there that they would sweep all summer.
So,
but I worked down here.
what exactly is, like, for the people at home, what is sweeping?
Sweeping is picking up wood that gets out of the boom, and they're all over the lake. They never pick it all up, but they try to get most of it. And it's the wood they lose that gets out of the boom.
And you talk to me about a pointer. What's a pointer?
A pointer is a boat like this. We call them pointers, and it was pointy at both ends. And that's the ones. This one here, we put a motor on it. Me and my dad built this probably in about 1966 or something. And they used to repair timber down here where they called the pond. And then we made a more convenient place here. And we used to, it probably took us about maybe a month to build this. It was me and my dad, and we had a bunch of students. Every year there would be a bunch of students would work here. So we worked here, me and my dad, and maybe 5 or 6 young people in their 16, 17 years old, all young kids. And we had them every year in the summertime. So we managed to get this done anyway, the two of us, and it worked pretty good while. This is where we repaired boom timber later on. And we used to build new boom timber here and repair the old stuff. We would build probably 26 a day of new timber. That was, each timber is about around 30 feet long. That's the spool boom timber. And there's a lot of bolts, and they're made in one block at each end and one in the middle, and 4 side pieces. The side pieces they were 8 by 12. And we had to drill holes. The holes were 35 inches or 34 inches we had to drill. And we drilled that with an air drill, with a chip auger. Chip auger we used to drill that with. And we had about probably anywhere from 10 to 15 men working here on repairing timber, or building, whatever. We had a winch at the far end, and to pull the timber up. The timber would come up at that end, and it would go down into the water at the other end. The timber would just pass through continuously. And we had a trolley beams on the top, and we had the chain blocks. We worked on two timbers at a time. We had torches, we had a compressor, we had electric tools, but we used mostly all air tools. Air tools was faster. And we had electric winch, or not electric, big gas winch on the end over there. And that's about it.
What's a spool boom?
Spool boom is the booms the Muir used to use to tow. It was a block in the middle, a block at each end. The blocks were, I think they're about 5 feet long at each end. The chain would pass through that, and they had a block in the middle to hold it together. And there was four side pieces. The side pieces was 8 by 12, and then that was all bolted together. There was approximately 14 bolts in each one, plus a staple on each end so the boom wouldn't wear from the chain. The chain would wear, and the wind would wear the boom. If you didn't have the staple on it, the boom wouldn't, the ends would wear off. So we had a staple to save the wood. And the Muir used to tow that up, and the tugboats, they used only flat boom timber. They were 12 by 16, and they were about 40 feet long. But all we done for the tugboats was, this was all BC fir. They come from British Columbia. It was all BC timber. And the tugboats, well, all we done was drill a hole in each end, and we'd put 2 bolts so the chain wouldn't split it on the end, and a staple. So it wasn't very much work to make the boom timber for the tugboats. They would tow pine with the tugboats. And the spool boom, well, the pulp was harder to keep in the boom. That's why they made the spool boom. And it was also a lot harder to tow the spool boom. It was a load just to tow the empty timber. I remember one time I went up with the fleck. We pulled the boom up. Like, it wasn't my job to go up and down the lake. I went up one time with the fleck to take the timber up for the Muir. And I think it took us 3 days, that's 24 hours a day, just to tow the boom timber up with the fleck. And so, so it was quite a load just towing the empty boom timber for the Muir. The Muir had an awful lot of boom timber. I don't know how many sticks, but it must have been a couple of hundred sticks they used to tow. So it was a big load just for a small boat, just the timber. I was walking around, looking around, checking everything over, and I come across this old rubber tire. At one time, the CIP had come up with an idea to save time for protect the chains or the boom timber. The chain used to wear the boom timber at the end, and this is what they had to protect the boom timber. And it was a lot of work making these things, and the CIP wanted to cut down costs, and they come up with this idea with rubber, which wasn't successful. But anyway, we had an awful time to cut that. And this is one here that we cut with the bandsaw. This was left from probably here 30 years, I guess. And this would be in 2 pieces. They'd cut it right down here. And then this would go on one side of the timber. The hole was here. The chain would pass right there. And that was supposed to protect the wood from wearing out. The other half was on the other part of the timber. And anyhow, that wasn't successful. So it was a lot of time wasted. I guess they finally went back to this. You know, so that didn't work. So that was, but it was very hard to cut. My dad ended up cutting that with a bandsaw, with this saw here. And it was so hard to cut, he ended up cutting all the teeth off of the bandsaw, and he made it like a bread knife. And he had a little water hose on the saw. He cut that with water, and that solved that problem for cutting the tires. It would cut very fast with the water on the bandsaw, grind down like a bread knife. But with all the work, it wasn't successful anyway. Finally went back to these old staples, which was, that was the best.
Good morning. We're up here this morning to talk about the ICO and the experience I had in the latter years of its operation. I joined the ICO in 1968 and remained with them until 1971 when the unfortunate CIP mill closure caused a loss of a lot of jobs, mine being one of them. Back then I came here after working several years with the old Booth Lumber Company up in Tea Lake, and was offered an opportunity to work here, and spent those 3 years here, and I can honestly say that I had a great time while I was here. The people were great, and as you know about the ICO in this area, it's a great location, and I can remember coming here every day, coming down that hill and arriving in this area was almost like driving onto a movie set with the older buildings that were here and the old shop and the old maintenance sheds and storage sheds, and I think it's something that needs to be captured on film, and I'm pleased that I was invited here today to participate in the making of this film here to talk about experiences at the ICO and what they meant to a lot of local people here for a number of years. During my time here, I worked with a gentleman by the name of Pierre Desjardins. Pierre was the bookkeeper here, and I was Pierre's assistant. And my role during that time was to look after payrolls, and I did purchasing. And purchasing back then was really ordering materials that I was told to order. Fern Gravel would come in with a list of parts he needed to repair the boats, and I would simply place the order. And of course, Marion Larvier, who was I think the best cook in northwest Quebec. Camp cook would come in and tell me what she needed, and you always ordered what she wanted. You didn't substitute anything because that upset cooks. And it was a great time, and yeah, I did just about everything that they wanted me to do. I looked after the stores department. We had to maintain our own parts and supplies, and we were not completely isolated, but it was a self-contained operation up here. And of course, in the spring of the year, we had to prepare and have an adequate inventory because that was the busiest time of the season. In the spring of the year, all the boat captains and operators and all the deckhands would come in here, and it was a busy place because there was plenty of boat maintenance going on, major repairs, minor repairs, painting, boat prep, spool boom repair. So there were crews coming in here from the Mattawa area, from the North Temiskaming area, and the regular crew that stayed at this site here. So it became a really busy area. Mind you, later on in the summer it got a little less busy at the depot because these guys all went out on the river, and they were on the river until fall when they were involved in the towing operations. But it was a busy place, and we needed to maintain adequate food supplies for the boats and adequate food supplies for the depot and adequate parts and of course all the supplies like pike poles and PVs and picaroons and pulp hooks and all these other things here. Much of what we had in stores was made right at the shop here. If it was a wood product, there was a good chance it was probably made by Euclid Moore or Gordon Moore, and if it was a steel product, there was a good chance it might have been welded or forged by a fellow by the name of Robert Mario. During the 3 years that I was here, those were the guys that were working in the shop. Fern Gravel was a key man here. He was the chief engineer on the PJ Muir and chiefly responsible for keeping all those boats in good running order. And he always tried to maintain an adequate parts supply in the stores. And of course, I had to work with Fern very closely to make sure that he had what he needed when it was needed. And so it wasn't a challenging place, but it gave you an opportunity to work very closely with some people who were very key in the company, and some of their knowledge rubbed off, and that's something that I'll always appreciate, having the opportunity to work with guys like that. Elmer Cody was the general manager of the operation, and back then, and he managed it quite well. I think a lot of experience over the years, and he was an easy fellow to work for. He was very demanding, but he was an easy fellow to work for and knew the area quite well. I think spent most of his younger life, and I believe he went on to retire from here up in this neck of the woods. So it was a challenging opportunity for me to come here for those 3 years to work with people like that. We had to keep inventories of the volume of wood that we towed down the river. I believe, I can't remember the numbers, it's been some 30 years ago, but I believe it was somewhere in the area of about 350,000 cords of wood annually that was being towed down the river, and that was quite a large volume of wood that was going down to the mill down there. And I think, in looking back at my experience here, if the mill hadn't closed down, I may have ended my days here. Unfortunately, this place closed down, I think, a year or two before the mill did, so that sort of caused a lot of us to have to go look elsewhere for work, for jobs. But I was fortunate in the sense, I think, when I came here, there was a brand new building to work in, the office building. It's the newest building on the point here. Mind you, it doesn't quite sit in with the rest of the buildings here, because some of them have been built at the turn of the century, and they show their wear and tear. But I came into this new modern building up here that was situated right beside an old log building, which is probably the main depot here. I don't have a lot of knowledge of the early years here, but there were people working here when I came here who had been here since time immemorial almost, I think. There are some real characters that come to mind here. Romeo Mario, I think, a person I'll never forget. Romeo had a booming voice, and one day I just couldn't help but I had to ask him why he spoke so loudly, and Romeo said that he started working in the lumber camps when he was about 13, and he was one of the few people who could read, and so they would ask him to read novels, I think, after supper, and he said we didn't have microphones and things like that, so he said I learned to read loud. And he said, for the rest of my life, that's exactly how I speak. And he did have a booming voice. Romeo didn't need to have a microphone, so he was one of the originals. I understand Romeo worked here for most of his adult life, and I think he was something like a 65-year veteran or something of a company, which is almost unheard of. So there were some characters here that were very, 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 very memorable. Gordon Moore. Gordon could build anything with a piece of wood. If you asked him to make you something, you just had to explain what it was you wanted and just let him go to and do it. And of course there was a Fern Gravel, I think, who was one of the best diesel mechanics in this area. Fern knew how to keep these boats tuned and up and running, and I think he was a very valuable employee to ICO. And of course we have Marion, who was the best cook around. Marion Larvier was actually the person responsible for me coming here. Peter Jewell was the clerk who was here before me, and then Peter moved on to accept a different challenge, and that created an opportunity here. And of course I approached Marion when I heard about it, and I said I'd be interested in that. And she's the one really who spoke to Elmer Cody and asked Elmer if he would consider me for the job. And ultimately I was the one that came up here to work. So she's the one that sort of opened the door for me up here. But she was a great cook. Most of the guys, I think, who worked in this camp really appreciated what she could do for them at the kitchen table. And she had a reputation up here. She ran a very strict kitchen, but there was not a five-star restaurant around who could even touch Marion. Her plates weren't fancy, but I'll tell you, they sure were certainly tasty. There were other people up here who spent a lot of years up here, whom I never had the opportunity to meet, but the ICO was like a family company. It seemed like every year there were the same people coming back year after year after year, in spite of the fact that it was only seasonal work. And I think that in itself has something to say for the kind of camaraderie that existed in this place. We all knew each other. Those of us who were working in an office environment were friendly with the people who were in the shop environment, and we were one big team. I traveled for those 3 years living up in Kippawa. I traveled with Euclid Moore and Francis Robinson and Gordon Moore and those guys up there. There were quite a number of people actually from the Kippawa area who worked up here. Of course, there was Marion, and there was her husband Regis, who worked on the boat, and Francis Robinson, and Euclid Moore, and Gordon Moore, and Russell Jolly, and Verna Jolly, and Catherine Dandy worked in the kitchen as well. And I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody, and of course I apologize for that, but So there was a pretty good Kippewa presence up here, and I think that says something too for the people up in Kippewa. They're pretty good river drivers, so they knew their stuff, and they did their job. And of course Elmer was happy to have them back year after year after year. Pierre Desjardins was a great guy. Pierre and I got along real well. He came from Ville Marie, and he was an easy guy to work with, and you never felt like you were working for him, you were working with him. He made my life easy on the job and accepted me as an equal right from day one. And because when I came in here, it was a little bit of a challenge. It was a brand new office, a brand new stores department. The shelves were empty, so I had to sort of fill those shelves and as we went along the way and decide what was needed on there in consultation with a lot of people, and we had to keep an adequate supply. We had oodles of gallons of paint here simply because the boats had to be maintained on a regular basis. So there were different paints for different applications, and if you just look around this building, you can see how widely paint was used up here as long before they had any kind of drywalls or things like that. So I think you worked with rough lumber and it was painted, and so the entire camp here was quite a huge paint consumer. And of course we had the diesel and the fuels, other gasolines and oils that we needed an adequate supply of for all the boats. So we had to coordinate those deliveries, and I can remember quite often having to phone people like Raymond Conley on the weekend and ask him to make a fuel delivery because there was a boat coming in, and he was arriving on Sunday morning or something, and we didn't have enough fuel in our tanks to fill him. And Raymond was always a great guy, and for the most time he'd do it with a smile. Occasionally he'd get a little annoyed at me and wondering why I didn't do that on a Thursday, I guess. But he was a very great fellow to work with. I think he had Gary Morrow working for him back then, and both Raymond and Gary often came up on weekends in order to fill our tanks for us. I think for the most part there was that kind of cooperation there, and it made it a more pleasant place to work simply because of that. You never felt like you were having to defend yourself, even if things didn't go originally as planned. People quickly compromised and adjusted their work schedules in order to suit everybody. This was a great place. I got a lot of great memories here, and although my time was short, it's amazing how many pleasant memories you can build in that in a period of 3 years. And I felt rather good coming back here today with Wayne. I hadn't been up here in a number of years. There have been some changes, obviously, since the time that I was up here. But as I arrived on the site, you could almost hear voices here. And when I came into the building, the wind today caused a few doors to open and close, and that was quite an experience in itself. We kind of wonder if maybe we're not the only ones here today. There just may be somebody else here, and it would be nice to shake their hand, but we'll just simply acknowledge their presence. There are a lot of good memories here in a very short time, and we're standing right now in the main dining area of the camp. This is where the men came here 3 times a day to be nourished, and this little table or bench right to my left here was mostly where the food was passed through by the cook in there, and you could smell the aroma in this little room here. It was captured. There were no modern ventilating systems to evacuate all these odors, but it was a great smell. I can still smell it here today just standing in here. And I believe that table here that is now lying on its side there was the main table in this dining area here, and there were a lot of guys that sat around there and walked away holding onto their stomachs. I'm sure they were feeling pretty good about it. And there's an area a little behind us here in the next room actually that was reserved for the senior management here and the clerical staff. And so I would sit in there with the clerical staff when the senior management people were here, because I was told that's what I had to do, but I wasn't all that comfortable with that arrangement, and Pierre and I often sat out here in this main dining area and had our lunch with everybody else, but occasionally we'd have to sit in that other side over there, and I felt a little bit uncomfortable with that. I preferred to sit out here with the guys, but just today, as we speak here today, I can brings back, I think it's an awakening of my taste buds. I can still taste some of the good old stews and pies and cakes and cookies and that were always there for us at lunchtime. We had rooms in this building up here, those of us that were on the management side of it, and although I didn't stay up here on a regular basis, occasionally I did. I would overnight up here. I had a room reserved upstairs here, as we all did, and in this building here there was myself and Pierre Desjardins, I think guys like Rayon Lacroix and Lionel Plamondon, and of course the cook stayed up here, Regis stayed up here, the cook's helpers Catherine and Verna, and so the working the guys who were working in the shops and on the boats, they stayed up in the sleep camp up on top of the hill here behind this building. So we weren't isolated from each other, but we had our own separate quarters up here, and after a good meal, I often went up there for a little 15-minute cat nap before I went back to work. So it was kind of nice having that my own little bedroom up here, my own little private corner. I remember when we were told the sad news here that the CIP mill in Temiskaming was going to close down, and we would no longer be towing logs down the river, and of course we all knew what that meant. Those of us who'd been here for many, many years, I guess, felt a tremendous sense of loss. And even though I'd only been here for 3 years, I shared that loss with those guys, and I think it was more than loss of a job, loss of an income. I think we all felt something, special about this place, and we enjoyed coming here today, or every day. Not just because this was where our work was. There was a little bit more, I think, that sort of brought us up here. We came into this place contented in the morning, and in spite of the rough day we may have had, we still left at the end of the day feeling pretty good about it. So when we were advised, at least when I was advised anyway, I was one of the first to go, because the first place that they were going to cut back was in the office staff. So I think the place continued to operate for a year or two after I left. But when I was told that at the end of the season I would be laid off permanently, I felt a little sad about it at all, because I knew then that it meant going out and looking for a job elsewhere and working with different people. And over the 3 years that I had been here, I had really come to enjoy this place and enjoy the people that I was working with. I knew most of these people from the time I was a very young person, so it was quite easy here to sort of get settled in with them. But like I said, it was an opportunity here to create a lot of great memories in a very, very short time, and I feel privileged to have had that opportunity here. So it's a place that I will never forget, because I don't want to, my time up here. I've had a few jobs where I'd like to forget, but this is certainly not one of them. This is one that I really cherish these memories, and I'm so pleased that Wayne asked me to come up today and to just sort of share my experience up here, however short it was. When I left here, I felt like it was not the last day on the job. I felt it was the last day of an era. I think that we all knew that the towing of the logs down the river was ending rapidly, and it was a time in history, okay, that would probably never be repeated. And I was grateful for having had an opportunity just during that transition period where we it gave me a sense of understanding when my dad talked about his days as a youngster in these logging camps. By the way, I should mention this. My dad worked on the Lady Minto a season or two as a fireman when it was a side wheeler, and there are pictures around, I think, that show what that boat looked like. But I recall my dad talking to me about his experiences on the river, and I really came to understand those experiences after I worked up here for those 3 years. So it was very, very sad to have to leave here, knowing that there was more than job losses here. It was the end of an era that I think historically people still want to recognize what the ICO, the huge contribution it made to the area, and there are people today who are desperately trying to preserve this building, and it's in a complete state of disrepair at this time here, and I'm a little saddened to come up here today and to find that broken windows and doors that are just hanging by one hinge right now, and it would be so nice. I know it'll never get back to what it was, but it would be so nice to at least have someone invest some money in this and at least close off these windows and try to preserve it for future generations. I think it's an opportunity here to preserve a piece of our region, and we need to do something about that rapidly.